Hello and welcome to Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo, standing with the backdrop of one of the most picturesque places in Sri Lanka, Ella. It is home to the Nine Arches Bridge, a brick bridge constructed in 1921 and still in use. Definitely, a train ride across this bridge is a tick off your bucket list. And if you do take that train ride, you will go through the Damodara Loop tunnel, the only tunnel in the country where the train tracks cross each other at different levels, while a swim at the Ravana Alla Falls, where legend has it that Sita was kept imprisoned before being rescued by Rama, is a must. So marching on ahead with Kaleidoscope today. Beauty pageants do have powerful purpose, according to paediatric nurse and Miss England 2020 finalist Rebecca Sinnarajah, who joins us on Selinco Live. Let's talk. On our People's Bank News Capsule, Chairman of CASA Ikram Kutilan proclaims that Colombo's shipping hub status is sinking. We bring in some perspectives on the rocky road being encountered due to the temporary ban on vehicle imports with mobility specialist Sheran Fernando, and UNFPA resident representative in Sri Lanka Ritsu Nakin explains how fashion can be a tool in fighting gender-based violence. In Singer Life in 60, we are back with Sam Pereira's with Weekend Reads. I'm looking forward to that for sure. We'll be back with the People's Bank News Capsule.
Technology is key in moving forward to transform every challenging moment into a profit, where manual becomes digital, business becomes smart, and lives become smarter. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. It's truly the change you need.
And we begin with some good news for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was ranked 92 among the 100 safest countries for COVID-19. At number 1 is Germany, followed by New Zealand, South Korea, Switzerland, Japan, Australia, China, Austria, the United Arab Emirates and Singapore. Sri Lanka's maritime industry has thrived for centuries due to the country's strategic location. Chairman of the Ceylon Association of Shipping Agents, CASA, Ikram Kutilan, says Sri Lanka is in danger of losing that status because there's much more to being a shipping hub than simply relying on location. Here's what he said when he met us.
The biggest issue is the capacity, because the port is congested. We don't have adequate capacity, and especially for the large ships to berth, we only have the CICT terminal. As a result, if we don't keep adding capacity, we are going to be left behind. So the whole issue is that we need to keep building capacity, and especially the East Container Terminal is absolutely critical because it is 5 years behind time. And if we don't get it operational, the Indian ports are going to overtake us and we are going to lose out, number one, with the cargo that have been transshipped in Colombo, and number 2, ships calling in the port of Colombo. So that is where we need to be on top of our game and ensure that we are ahead of competition.
As a transshipment hub, Sri Lanka cannot depend on geographic location only. A hub is not just about handling containers. It's about handling cruise ships, general cargo ships, and upping the stakes in other facilities, including multi-country consolidation, ship repair, arbitration, supply of bunkers, and other ancillary services. The European Union is giving a boost to Sri Lanka's tourism industry with a €4.9 million grant, which is designated for, among other things, developing 54 hotels run by SME entrepreneurs and a commitment to improve community-based tourism in the central and Uva provinces. Motor vehicle importers are up in arms with the government's decision to temporarily suspend the importation of vehicles for 1 year. With Sri Lanka facing a foreign exchange crisis, the rationale is that there were sufficient imported vehicles in the country to cater to the demand. Mobility specialist and co-founder of InnoSolve Lanka, Sheran Fernando, gave his read on the current scenario.
Sri Lanka does not have the money to import cars. We spend about $1 billion to $1.5 billion a year on the import of cars, and in a COVID economy, I don't really see how this money will be available. The second point I'd like to raise is the ban on imports could be a platform to resolve 3 significant issues in mobility. The first is pollution. And when the ban is uplifted, an encouragement of electric vehicles and EU6 emission standards could significantly mitigate this problem. Congestion could be mitigated by disallowing or discouraging private motor vehicles to come into the city. In order to do this, you would look at things like city entry levy, but you would also need to improve the public transport within the city. We spend about $2.9 billion on the import of fuel for automotives. Again, electric vehicles and solar charging could resolve this issue over time. The third point is globally, the automotive industry is moving from selling automotive products to selling automotive services. Mobility as a service is the current buzzword. And the Sri Lankan industry, whilst empathizing with them, I think they should look at new revenue flows in the mobility service area.
Benchmark US crude oil for October delivery rose by more than $1 to $38.05 a barrel on Wednesday. Brent crude oil for November delivery also rose by more than $1 to $40.79 a barrel. Gold for December delivery rose by more than $11 to $1,955 per ounce. Investor spirits ran high at the Colombo Stock Exchange this week, seeing John Keel's shares gaining traction. However, year-to-date foreign selling topped the 34 billion rupee mark. At the Colombo stock market this week, the market gained an average daily turnover of 1.8 billion rupees, with the indices moving up very marginally. The Sri Lankan government is planning on having 80% of Sri Lanka's power requirement from renewable energy, and there are corporates who have already got in on the action. Seneco Life has invested nearly 16 million rupees in solar power installation in its Jaffna and Anuradhapura branches. The company already has the largest investment in solar energy at its head office, which has reduced its carbon footprint and saved 7,200 units of electricity monthly. While there's much talk of Sri Lanka adding more renewable energy into the energy mix, the CEB says the capacity of the current electric grid in Sri Lanka is not sufficient to accommodate renewable energy, as there aren't enough transformers to expand current capacity. Even motorsports has seen positive environmental impacts. With e-racing gaining popularity, carbon footprint has reduced. A 14-year-old Sri Lankan, Calvin Kingsley, won the first ever Speed Runs e-racing championship in Sri Lanka, beating over 100 e-racers who use the latest play-seat technology, PS4 racing simulators. Last week, we featured Unbreakable, designer Amilani Pereira's collection at Colombo Fashion Week, when she collaborated with the United Nations Population Fund to spotlight gender-based violence. Why did the UNFPA use fashion as a tool to focus on one of the most prevalent human rights violations in the world, gender-based violence? I put this question to the UNFPA resident representative in Sri Lanka, Ritsu Nakin.
United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, focuses on health and rights of women and girls. Addressing gender-based violence is one of our key priority issues. 1 in 3 women in the world experience either physical or sexual violence at some point in their lives, which is really, you can call it a pandemic or shadow pandemic. But this issue is actually quite sensitive in many cultures, and people don't want to talk about it. Therefore, UNFPA engages art and design to communicate our messages through these powerful tools. And fashion is one of such important means to really engage audience that is usually not interested in our issues. So we are very grateful for our partnership with Amilani Pereira as well as the Colombo Fashion Week, so that we can really engage new kind of audience and make sure that gender-based violence is known as a social issue that is very important for safe and prosperous Sri Lanka.
So, when women and girls experience violence, it affects all of us, because not only does it impact their sexual and reproductive health choices, but it also impacts economic, educational and political empowerment. It is our responsibility, therefore, to empower people everywhere to be strong and break the silence and stigma that surrounds gender-based violence. If you're one of those people who likes long hair, take a look at these dreadlocks. This 92-year-old Vietnamese man has gone 80 years without ever trimming his hair, because he believes that if he cuts his hair, he will die. His hair is 5 meters long. Singapore's Marina Bay has yet another first. Apple's latest retail store, Apple Marina Bay Sands. The architecture, compared to a floating lantern, is constructed with 114 individual pieces of glass held in place by 10 vertical supporting bars. The dome is a first of its kind, all glass and self-supporting. And you can always get what you want. The Rolling Stones opened their first flagship store at Carnaby Street, London, with a giant lips and tongue sculpture making its window display. Beside the t-shirts, jackets, umbrellas and water bottles, face masks with the Stones' famous lips and tongue logo may be their best seller. So, how would you like your sushi delivered by a bodybuilder? And a shirtless one at that. In Japan, a sushi chef who is also a competitive bodybuilder is making sushi deliveries using shirtless bodybuilders. Order a minimum of $66 worth of sushi from Delivery Macho and your eye candy comes for free. And with that portion of sushi, we end our People's Bank News Capsule. We'll be back with paediatric nurse of Sri Lankan heritage, finalist in the Miss England for Miss World 2020 pageant, Rebecca Sinnarajah, on Selinco Life. Let's talk.
With Selinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for a retirement today. Selinco Life, a relationship for life.
My name is Rebecca Sinnarajah. I'm 22 years old. I'm a Miss England semi-finalist 2020. My occupation is I'm a paediatric nurse and I work for the NHS full-time. I'm extremely proud to say that I work for the NHS during this crisis, and I would like to thank all the NHS workers for putting themselves on the front line. My sponsor for Miss England is Plus Free, so go and check them out. Prior to this lockdown, I did have a couple of events in place to fundraise for Beauty with a Purpose, but due to the outbreak of COVID, I couldn't. But I do have some interesting things lined up, so stay tuned for that. Some interesting facts about me is I am a Sri Lankan born and raised in the UK. I'm also a Bollywood dancer and I've received many awards for that. I sing and play the guitar and I'm also a henna artist.
That was paediatric nurse Rebecca Sinnarajah, a finalist at the Miss England for Miss World 2020, delivering her virtual introduction for the pageant. Beauty pageants have always been rife with controversy. Why do young women continue to vie for a crown that still symbolizes and casts a judgmental focus on women and beauty? Today on Selinco Life Let's Talk, Rebecca joins us from her home in West London to answer some of these controversies. Rebecca is only the second woman of Sri Lankan heritage to make it to the finals of Miss England. At just 22, Rebecca, who loves Bollywood dancing and works at the Chelsea and Middlesex Hospital, wanted to speak to people about the importance of mental health among children and teenagers. Having worked without a break during COVID-19 at the hospital, the stark reality of mental health support was larger than life, and she was even more determined to use this platform to talk to young people about it. This determination saw her take her dream that much further. She thus submitted her video clips for the virtual pageant and is now among 30 women vying to represent England at Miss World. I began by asking Rebecca how she thinks pageants like these help women and whether they aren't derogatory to women.
So there's always going to be loads of critiques out there about pageants. So, being in a pageant is not just about being a pretty face, there's more to it. It's all about raising awareness, a cause that they want to put out into a global platform. Loads of people think when you talk about pageant, it's about body image or you have to be pretty, or there's also loads of things about it, but it's actually more than that. It's about empowering women. Everyone has a cause that they want to talk and help. So it's really supporting each other and bringing our cause to a great platform. And we're a great example to younger women, younger girls who want to join pageant. And we're just there to say that, it's not just about beauty, it's more than beauty. So we can make a difference to our community and our world.
So what do you say to those who say that pageants like these objectify women?
So I would always say to people that this is not just about beauty, it's absolutely more than beauty. We come on this platform because we have something to talk about. We have awareness to raise about. People need to change their perspective of pageants to say that, we want to make a difference, when we say pageants, people are always going to say something, but I'm just here to say that us women coming on this platform have a reason behind it. Either we've been through something or we're here to raise awareness about a certain cause. So not to always think pageant is just about beauty, it's way more than beauty.
So you are a Bollywood dancer, and I'm sure your confidence and your poise and posture comes from that. But how does your experience as a pediatric nurse actually help you in your contest?
So it actually, because during COVID, I was working throughout the whole crisis, but being in this pageant, this is something totally different to my job that I do outside. So I'm able to use my nursing skills in this pageant to talk about experiences, first-hand experience, what I've seen and how I can help and advocate for these children. There are therapeutic activities that we can help out with, with children. And one thing I say that I always say to people that no one needs to suffer in silence. There's support available out there. You just need to ask. And I'm just here to encourage young people, there's support available. Do not stay in silence. Use your voice, get help to support, because we don't want, like during COVID, loads of children have suffered. And I can see, so this field really helped me. And having to bring that to pageant, I can see I can be a voice for these young people.
Given your Sri Lankan heritage, Rebecca, has being coloured been a disadvantage? Because no matter where you go or what you do, at the decision-making point, that does come up at some point.
There's always going to be people that says something, Even though I was born in the UK and raised, people are always going to say, oh, it's better to have someone who is an English person to become Miss England. But I take everything in a positive way. If I want to do something, I will just do it. I have a positive mindset. I will not let anyone's opinion get to me. It really does encourage other young girls to enter. You don't have to be a certain color. You don't have to be a certain race. Anyone can do it. So I just want to put it out there that, it doesn't matter what kind of background you come from. Always have a positive mindset. Be positive about everything and do not let other people's negative comments get to you.
What is your opinion of the Me Too movement? Do you feel that pageants like these help in any way?
I would say yeah, because there are women who come into the pageant talking about empowering women. Using this platform would encourage other women to come out of their comfort zone, to raise awareness and to use their voice so that no other women will struggle in situations like this. So this platform could be used for big purposes.
What are your pet causes? How do you think you can support these if you win the crown?
Yeah, so my cause is my main platform. I'm going to use this platform to talk about mental health awareness in children and young people. So I say that we'll use this platform I'll go into schools, educate children on mental health awareness, the therapeutic side of it, that, no one needs to suffer in silence. Their voices can be heard. You need to ask help in order to get help. So to encourage children that if you are suffering, do speak about it, because it's very important. This is a very important topic. We've seen it during COVID, how many teenagers were affected. So I'm here to say that, your voices can be heard. Ask for help and you will get help.
As writer Adrian Michael said, she's the kind of queen who knows her crown isn't on her head, but in her soul. Being a nurse, Rebecca has an inherent understanding and empathy for people, and that's what we need in our young people and in the world right now. Good luck, Rebecca, in your quest, not just at the pageant, but in bringing awareness into the mental health spectrum.
With Salinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for a retirement today. Salinco Life, a relationship for life.
We'll be back with Weekend Reads with the publisher of Pereira Hussein Publishing House, Sam Pereira. Reading one book is like eating one potato chip. One is never enough. So today on Singer Life in 60, we have the publisher of Pereira Hussein Publishing House, Sam Pereira, sharing some of his best reads for the weekend or the week, so we can have a reading feast on Singer Life in 60.
So Naomi Munawira is another one of these authors whom we have been very lucky with. The Island of a Thousand Mirrors is, of course, set in the backdrop of the Civil War. And I won't spoil the story for you, but I will tell you that it was longlisted, shortlisted, and won many international awards. It is a book you must read. It tells you a lot about Sri Lanka and where we have come. Sundaralingam was a minister in Sri Lanka's first independent cabinet, and he is one of the first Tamil intellectuals to write about his disenchantment with progressive Sinhala governments. As you know, Sri Lanka's independence didn't go very well with minorities. The honeymoon didn't last very long, and the first riots were in 1956, barely 8 years after independence. If you read this book, it will give you pointers as to where we began to go wrong. This is a blast from the past. Alagu Subramaniam was a barrister, and he wrote a book of short stories in the 1950s. We republished the book because it gives a marvelous and nostalgic view of Jaffna in the 1950s, a time which has evolved and will never come back. The stories are short stories, they're marvelously written, and will give you a good feel of time and place.
Did I say a reading fest? Well, yes it is. If you want to get those books and more, the Pereira Hussein Virtual Book Fair is on. Just click on the website and get 30 to 60% off on all Pereira Hussein titles. Fill your arms up with books and enjoy the read and the ride. Thank you, Sam Pereira, for sharing your weekend reads with us on Singer Life in 60. And so, if you want to give us any feedback, suggestions or stories you'd like to see, please email us on kaleidoscopeweekly1@gmail.com. And if you like to watch us on Let's Talk, Life in 60 or our news capsule clips, you'll find it on our playlist on YouTube. Or simply subscribe to Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo and join us weekly. So, until next week, please be careful, wash your hands, wear your mask. And now, here's your Kaleidoscope takeaway. Don't stop when you're tired. Stop when you're done.